Today, we're going to complete this trust series. I hope that it's been helpful for you. Again, lots of great positive feedback. The most recent one was interesting to see how people responded to it. At the end of the day, I don't look to be controversial. I look to give you hope, and I look to give you my story, and I look to give you some kind of help to navigate this fiasco that we're all in. In order to rebuild trust, there's two things I want to give you that you're going to have as an unfaithful spouse, and I think it's completely realistic for you as a betrayed spouse to ask your unfaithful spouse to exhibit two things. They are consistency and competency. Number one is consistency, and as a betrayed spouse, I think it's completely okay for you to have a realistic expectation of consistency from your unfaithful spouse. And unfaithfuls, you do have to have consistency, but consistency will not be enough. You're going to have some competency, and I'll talk about that in a minute. First, consistency. For me, early on, Samantha wanted to see consistency. I went to work at the same time every day, and I came home at the same time every day. If I was going to be 5 minutes late, I would send a text or I would call her. I would also, when I was leaving the office, send Samantha a text, or I would call her and say, hey, I'm leaving. You know, traffic's going to be a little bit, rough, but I'll be home in 20, 30, 40, whatever minutes. Because she needed to get into a consistency of expectation from me. I was home every night after we started recovery. That was one of the expectations that she said that she had of me, is wanted to have dinner every night, because in my life prior to the affair, I was gone 3 to 4 nights a week. I know some of you work different jobs and you travel. I get it. But you've got to find a way to reestablish consistency. Maybe it's that you call home when you're traveling every day or every night at the same time every day. Maybe you have to kind of excuse yourself from a meeting and say, man, I've got to make a phone call. It's very important. I did that. I sometimes would step out of a meeting with a client and say, look, I've got to make this phone call to my wife. I'm very sorry, but can you give me 5 minutes? And I would call, and many times Samantha would go, what are you doing? And I would say, I'm in this meeting, but I just had to call you. I just wanted to tell you I love you and make sure that I was consistent. And she would say, you don't have to do that. Don't make your client mad. But it was going the extra mile, and to this day, she loved that I did that. It never got me in trouble with clients either. But you have to show some consistency. I think it's one of those things that if you want to win back trust with your betrayed spouse, one of the things they have to see is consistency in your demeanor, and I'm going to get very real, what time you go to bed at night maybe, how late you're up when your spouse is in bed. Sometimes I've seen people suggest that spouses go to bed at the same time, and for us, that was incredibly difficult. Samantha goes to bed at 9. At 9 o'clock, I'm getting like my second wind. I'm ready to write, to work, to get stuff done. So we had to make some adjustments. She went to bed later, I went to bed earlier. That's something that you can do, but you've got to have consistency if you want to restore trust. The other thing is competency. Now, this is going to hit some of you right between the eyes, because the betrayed spouse needs to know that you, the unfaithful, quite honestly, are not going to be a perpetual dumbass the rest of your life. They need to know that you're going to be competent, that they're not going to have to babysit your recovery, that you are going to maybe find an AA meeting if that's what you're doing, or find an SAA meeting if that's what you're doing, or that you're going to go meet with whatever therapist you're meeting with. Maybe it's a small group, I don't know, but they're going to need to see that you're going to show some competency for your own recovery. They're going to need to know that you are going to educate yourself, or that you're going to motivate yourself for recovery, for therapy, for aftercare. That's huge. It won Samantha over when she saw me taking the reins of recovery. She felt so secure when I was making appointments to see Rick, when I was introducing books for us to read, when I was driving the bus. The problem was I didn't start driving the bus until Rick took me to the side of the road or behind the woodshed and woke me up. And that's the disconnect. A lot of times the unfaithful won't show this leadership until they get the right kind of help. But after they get the right kind of help, you got to do it. I had to start leading. I had to show that I was competent and that I was getting more competent in my recovery. So to kind of land this series, I don't know that I could end with two better principles: consistency and competency. If you can, as an unfaithful, show consistency and show your ever-growing competency in your recovery, it's going to do incredible wonders for restoring trust over time. If you're a betrayed spouse, I think it's completely understandable to ask your spouse to exhibit some form of consistency in their recovery, and certainly at the right time, after the right help has been brought into the equation, to expect competency in their recovery as well. I sure hope this gives you a picture of how to restore trust. And if there's anything I can ever do, feel free to reach out.